All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a brutal 13th century clash where a truly spectacular reversal of fortune changed history. We're looking at the Battle of Tursko, which took place in the freezing mid-February of 1241. And this isn't just a story about two armies clashing in the snow. It's actually this fascinating, almost unbelievable tactical study of human psychology, discipline, and how incredibly quickly the tide of war can turn when greed takes the reins. So, how exactly did a victorious army completely annihilate itself in a matter of minutes, simply because they stopped to loot? That's the core question here, and it plunges us right into the high-stakes, freezing environment of 1241 Poland. We're going to break down the exact sequence of events, looking at the tactics of both sides to understand how an absolutely assured victory transformed into a total slaughter. Section 1. The Mongol Diversion. Winter of 1241. To really get what's happening, you have to look at the terrifying speed of the Mongol advance. The invasion kicks off in early 1241. By early February, they pull off this massive logistical feat of actually crossing the frozen Vistula River. As they push southwest, right into the Polish heartland, they violently sack the city of Sandomierz. And finally, on February 13th, this rapid, brutal advance culminates as the two armies meet at the village of Tursko Wielkie. The speed they maintained in the dead of winter was just absolutely staggering. But here is the absolutely crucial point to understand. This entire campaign in Poland wasn't even their main objective. The ultimate goal was actually a calculated, strategic diversion. They wanted to strike such intense fear into Northern Europe that local rulers would be completely paralyzed. If they're terrified, they aren't sending any military aid to the Kingdom of Hungary, which was the actual primary target of the Mongol Empire at the time. Truly a masterclass in grand strategy. Section 2. The Rival Commanders. A Clash of Tactics. So out in this mid-February cold, we have a really dramatic contrast in leadership. On one side, you have Biter. He's the grandson of Genghis Khan, a highly disciplined tactician leading a deeply battle-hardened force. Against him stands Władimir. He's the voivode, or senior commander of Kraków. Now his situation is chaotic. The 14-year-old Polish Duke, Boleslav, had literally panicked and fled to take refuge in the castle of Kraków. So Władimir is left scrambling, hastily throwing together a desperate army of local nobility and professional warriors just to defend their homeland. And when we break down the actual forces, the Polish army actually has a slight numerical advantage. They're fielding an estimated 1,000 to 2,000 men. But remember, this is a hastily assembled mix of knights, nobles, and local levies. Standing against them are roughly 1,000 Mongols, but those 1,000 men are composed entirely of highly disciplined, battle-tested cavalry. So it's a larger, more traditional European force going up against a slightly smaller, but incredibly unified and mobile unit. Section 3. The Polish Pursuit. The trap is set. Okay, so Władimir initially blocks the road toward Kraków, near Miechów. In response, the Mongols just push through a few villages and pull back eastward toward Tursko Wielkie. Well, hearing that the Mongols are falling back, the Polish forces eagerly pursue them. They totally believe they've got the invaders on the run. But the tactical reality? Far more dangerous. Bidart was entirely aware of this pursuit, and he was actively preparing his legendary tactic, a deadly mock retreat to draw them onto better ground. Section 4. A false Polish victory. The initial clash. So this battle actually happens in two distinct phases. And this first phase sees a massive swing in momentum. The Polish knights launch a total surprise attack, rushing right into the Mongol encampment. And it works. The Mongols are caught completely off guard and thrown into deep confusion. The attack was so jarring, so incredibly chaotic that several captured Polish prisoners actually managed to escape their captors right then and there, fleeing into the dense surrounding forests. I mean, at this exact moment, the Poles were winning. But wow, here is the fatal flaw of the entire day. Having captured the camp, the Polish forces focused entirely on looting it, rather than worrying about the fact that there was still a highly significant enemy force out there. The discipline of these knights completely evaporated the second they saw an opportunity for plunder. Instead of holding their formations or securing the perimeter or, chasing down the enemy, they just scatter to grab gold, weapons, and supplies. Section 5. The devastating counterattack. The pendulum swings. And this is precisely how the Mongols exploited that total breakdown in discipline. While the Poles are losing their formation and scattering themselves among the tents, Bidar doesn't panic. His cavalry rallies. They calmly regroup out in the surrounding woods. Once the Polish forces are thoroughly distracted by their own greed, the Mongols launch a devastating, completely unified cavalry counteroffensive. They are basically striking a disorganized mob that had entirely forgotten they were standing in the middle of an active war zone. The result? It was an absolute slaughter. The clash became incredibly one-sided. It's this urgent, brutal reality of 13th century warfare. The initial victors, who had completely stripped themselves of their defensive formations just to grab some loot, were effortlessly routed and cut down right there in the snow. Section 6. The bloody aftermath. Decimation of an aristocracy. Now we have to look at the grim conclusion of this violently swinging battle. Approximately 800 Polish soldiers were killed. And sure, while Volodymyr did barely manage to escape with his life, this massive casualty count essentially wiped out a significant portion of Krakow's military aristocracy in a single afternoon. That one failure of discipline completely crippled the entire region's defensive capabilities. The physical and strategic footprint of this battle is really profound. Even today, archaeological excavations near Tursko, at a site locals call Zamczysko, which means castle remnants, have uncovered 13th century arrowheads and mace fragments that perfectly confirm this brutal cavalry engagement. Strategically, this victory cleared the path deeper into Lesser Poland, basically setting the stage for future defeats at Chmielnik and Lenica. But it's also worth noting that the Mongols themselves were pretty shaken up. That initial Polish ambush caused some real damage. Interestingly enough, you can even find references to this exact battle all the way in a Taiwanese chronicle of the Chinese Yuan dynasty, where Tursko is spelled Tulaseko. Because of those heavy early losses, the Mongols actually had to temporarily withdraw into the dense forests of eastern Poland just to throw off enemy scouts and wait for reinforcements before they could even continue their campaign. So, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. If military discipline had simply held out over the lure of immediate greed, could the entire history of 13th century Europe have been rewritten? I mean, think about it. If those Polish knights had just held their lines after surprising the camp, Badar's forces might have been completely broken right then and there. Instead, the blind pursuit of plunder turned an incredible tactical advantage into an absolute historic disaster. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning history, and I'll catch you next time.